All right, everybody, we might as well get started. John, can you introduce yourself?
Good morning. Good morning.
It's a special guest here.
Special guest.
My name's
I'm the found.
Here's
My
the
name's
pillow.
John Kuntz. I have the pillow. We were just talking about passing the pillow so we can not talk over each other like at home. My name's John Kuntz. I'm the founder of All Dry here in Florida. It's a mold and water mitigation company in odor and anything that has to do with indoor air quality.
Perfect. So, John, we met, actually, you guys met first. So, on a personal level, you've helped him out at his house, and then you helped me out at my house, and now we're kind of sharing you with the world. Here's the
Tell one quick story about this guy next to me to my right. I got a call from a builder. He took a mirror down. There was suspect something going on. And I went over. I said, I'm about 20 minutes away. I'll just run over now and take care of it and get out of there. It'll be 5 minutes. After meeting him 3 hours later, after a long conversation, because we're both pretty gabby.
Weird.
And we had a lot and we had a lot in common. I made a good friend, and that's how I got to this point. And that's why I'm sitting here.
So we kind of wanted to make this special for you guys. We're seeing some stuff. It's now been in the 90s for 2 straight months, if not more. Humidity's up there, and this is just normal for any environment, but Florida is a little bit more extreme because of the amount of water that we have. But ultimately, the way I think about the four-letter word, the mold word, is if you're not staying on top of things, there's a chance for mold to grow. And in what you educated me about my house was we liked having the temperature a little higher. We don't like 70-degree thermostat. We want it to be 77. And then I have 4 kids, so we're not always cleaning everything all the time. Our baseboards are dusty and, just staying on top of that. And so you came to us and you're like, yeah, this is the perfect environment for growth. Hello.
Hello. I get asked a lot, and this segues into where you should have your temperature in your home. I do not care about the temperature in your home. We care about the humidity. If it's above 60% for a chronic period of time, you will have a growth. No question, because every time we walk in and out of the house, and as agents and sellers and buyers, every time we walk in and out, we bring mold spores, the common mold spores with us, which is the aspergillus. Right. Very common. It's full outside. We bring it in. It's this dirt until you get humidity. So I don't care what temperature it is because every system's different. I care about the humidity. Keep it under 55%. You'll never have a problem. I don't care about the dust.
Good.
Dust is just, if you like that, doesn't matter.
But didn't you say the dust is like the protein that it needs, or how does that work?
Mold needs 2 things to grow. It needs something to eat, and it can eat anything. It'll eat drywall, and it needs moisture. That's the killer. If you keep the moisture down, you will never, ever, ever have a problem.
So this is good. So I can be as dirty as I want as long as I keep my humidity low.
You must stay married too.
Yeah, dirty as I need to. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You can stay as dirty as you want, but maybe not married.
So what we did in my house is we actually added 2 dehumidifiers, whole house dehumidifiers, to keep our thermostat low on the humidity side of things. So we're always under 55%. And it just puts our mind at ease, knowing that it's not an environment where mold will grow, at least until you have the next thing. So the next thing was we had a little roof leak at the house. Now, obviously, if I ever sell this house, this is all going in the seller disclosure. So we had a little roof leak and we fixed the leak. That's always my first advice. Would you say that in that order, you fix the problem?
You have to fix the cause before you repair the problem. It can go simultaneously. If somebody has me come and fix a ceiling problem because of a roof leak and they're not repairing the roof, I'll turn down the business because they're just wasting their money and their time. It has to be dry to remediate properly, and it's not a big deal. And we've talked about this. The 2 of us have talked about this. Especially when we get buyers from the north and they've never had this issue before. Their hair's on fire. They lay in the bed. They stare at the ceiling, worrying about this house that they're going to buy. And it's really not a big deal. And we're going to probably talk about ways to prevent even getting to this point.
Totally. So, Dad,
Into this.
I always like to have an answer because just like John's always asked these questions. We're always asked questions about mold as well on a contract
Right.
basis. So when, we're going to go over the contract, the neighbor, FAR bar, and defective or non-working items. But the thing that's correlates well with what John says is we have to identify the problem first. So even if mold is not a defective item, or if, let's say that's for a later topic, what's causing it is possibly a defect. Would you agree with that?
I would absolutely. I look at the mold report as a red flag that there's moisture coming in
Yeah.
somewhere. It could be a leak on the roof. It could be a cracked pipe. It could be
Air conditioning issue.
air conditioning that's malfunctioning. What is the source of this problem? Have we gotten it early? In my case, I had a sprinkler hitting the window at one point.
That happens a lot.
So fix that. Then you take care of the sheetrock and so forth, the mold.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And so that's our first lesson. And just kind of generally, I told John the theme of these videos is learn one thing. So if I forget to ask him, I want the learn one thing at the end of the video. I want you to tell me one thing to take away from the video. So from my perspective, it's all right, we have this contract and we're all worried about whether mold is a defect or not, or my client's upset. We need to focus in on what's causing it. And so you mentioned it needs moisture and it needs something to eat. There's always something to eat, but we can remove the moisture. So that's really the goal.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, John, can you tell me about empty houses? What you see when a house is unoccupied for a while?
I see, I'm happy because remediating a house with 1,000 Hummels in it sitting around is a real chore. An empty house is much easier to remediate, but a lot of times they're somewhat neglected. They're not changing the air filter on the HVAC. Maybe it's not running efficiently.
Yeah.
If it's not running efficiently, the moisture is going up in the home. Maybe they want to save a little money because it's unoccupied. They put it up to 80, right? And now you're only removing moisture in your home when your air conditioning's running. If it's not running, that little white tube coming out of your house is not dripping water, you're not removing moisture. Please buy a $12 little humidistat off of Amazon just to get an idea what your humidity is.
Keep on the counter.
Yeah, just get an idea because if you have a bunch of girls in the house that are teenagers that are taking 30-minute, 40-minute showers, not turning the fan on, you gotta have a lot of moisture and you're gonna get a growth. Things are gonna turn green. Very easy to fix.
Very sexist.
All right, I've got our first question. This actually came from Michael earlier today. I want to make sure I answer it. So I have a question that's come up several times during inspections while representing the seller as a listing agent. Now, the first thing I'll point to is when there's a mold, concern, when there's a moisture concern, everybody has to start looking for solutions. It's not me against them. We all have to start to think, all right, what's causing it? And then how do we fix it? So in this case, he's talking about it being as a listing agent. In a number of cases, the mold test has included swabs from areas such as bathrooms, back of closets, and the HVAC system. The swab results often come back showing cladosporium present, while the air quality tests remain normal. So to reiterate, the air quality test came in not elevated, but they did a swab that kind of proved that there was an existing growth of some sort. It is not airborne, but because of the swab results, the buyer is now requesting mold remediation. They put it in their election. Several mold companies have explained that this is common growth that can typically be wiped down and is not considered serious. As I understand it, the neighbor contract does not specifically reference mold by type, and the buyer's options are either to request repairs or cancel within the inspection period. Can you discuss? So I would love for you to answer that scenario and kind of how you handle it, because we had a situation similar.
It's not a problem. I could probably go into anybody's house, look behind a suitcase that's up against the closet that's not getting any airflow.
Yeah.
Take a swab. There'll be something there. Is it something that's unhealthy? Not really, not really at all. Nor is it kicking off, and I'm sure my fellow to the right is going to talk about the legal aspects of it. I don't know why they did the swab. When I do pre-inspection mold, I'll visually, if I see something, I'll probably grab a swab.
Yeah.
But if the air sample is clear, wipe before the listing. This should be done.
Oh, that's a good
And,
idea.
and I'm sorry, I just gave away my one thing.
Write that down.
Before, please, please, if you're listing a house, it's 300 bucks or whatever it is. Give me a call. I'll come and do a visual inspection, uh, do a test. And as attorneys, I was going to ask you guys this. You probably,
I'm putting it down.
you probably remember from law school, some professors saying, don't ask a question that you don't know the answer to.
Yeah, in a trial, right?
That's what that does, right?
Yeah.
You know the answer, and then nothing but good can happen after that.
You go to law school?
I didn't, but like I said, you and I know a lot about it.
What do you think, Dad? So in that scenario, how would you evaluate it from a legal perspective?
Well, it's not a defect under the neighbor contract. I always ask, what's the deposit situation?
Yeah.
Because if it's first deposit is 3 days after the effective date, the buyer will say, I don't care. They're going to want what they want. A practical thing that we've learned, working with John, is your mother uses damper in the closets. The circulation in closets is lousy. You don't have ductwork necessarily, or the air return in our case. Your mother's closet upstairs was this tiny 4x6 thing down near the baseboard, and it was a 12-foot high closet. So we were going to get mold in the ceiling. I had to paint the thing twice. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with this? So we went to damper it in closets, or the neighbors, when they leave, they would open the closet door so the air gets in there. Little tiny things that reduces it to something simple for the consumer.
Yeah, so I think that's really good practical advice. Way I would look at it is I would take both of these points and I would say, all right, first, is there anything causing this? That would be the first thing I want to know. So if a buyer calls me or the seller calls me and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so angry at this. At first, let's calm down in the sense of I want steps. Step one, what's causing it? In this case, in this hypothetical, kind of nothing. It needs to be cleaned. But there's nothing really to be fixed. The air conditioning is operating as planned. There's no leak in the closet. There's nothing that we're aware of. And the inspector in this hypothetical hasn't pointed any of that out. So if I'm the buyer, I push the inspector and say, what else? Why? Are you noticing anything broken? Is this somewhat normal? Or are you really alarmed? And can you guide me through it? Maybe even get a second opinion, which John, he helped us out on a deal recently where he was the second opinion. And then as a seller, I think the seller needs to ask the same exact question. So my advice to most sellers is, I want you to respond as if you're keeping the house. I don't care what the contract says. I really don't care about any of that. I want to know first and foremost, what should a homeowner do to rectify it or nothing? Should we clean it? Should we remediate it? What do you think of that?
I think it's great. And I chuckle because I do get calls for people, and you mentioned the shower and part of that question.
Yeah.
Who doesn't have a wet shower? And if you're not and it's wet, it's always wet.
Dirty people.
Actually, if it's wet, they've cleaned themselves, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But the shower is damp.
Yeah.
So my wife is incredibly clean. Our house is right, honey? Our house is fastidious. We still get into little corners. We'll get something funky going on. And
Yeah.
I gave her some plant-based antimicrobial. It's so safe you can drink it. Scrub it with the toothbrush and don't call me. But in the closets, just get some air movement. Maybe you need a louvered door on it. Leave the doors open, like you said. I see that a lot. Pull stuff away from the walls. Very simple.
Yeah.
And this is not a defect. This is Florida living. It really is.
Yeah, you could have a brand new house and have these types of things. You even see it on new construction contracts where they have a mold addendum or disclaimer saying that mold is a naturally occurring element.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll get to that as well. So can you tell me more about what happened at the house that I sent you to? So I'll set you up on this one. We had a condominium. Buyer did an inspection. She had some sensitivities to mold. And so she might have asked, and I don't know this, but she may have asked the inspector to go above and beyond. Hey, I want you to look everywhere. I want you to tell me everything.
Mhm.
And so the buyer gets this report and it's pretty damning. It talks about needing, they found moisture in the bathroom. They did swabs. But the air quality tests were not elevated. So this actually is very similar to Michael's scenario. And in the inspector's comments, typically what we'll see in inspectors, they'll say, please, contact a professional for further evaluation. That's a really common phrase that they put in the reports. It's not what this guy said. Do you remember what he said? He said, total destruction of the bathroom and remediation. Yeah, everything. So, first, what we did is we looked at the contract. The buyer called me. She was in tears. And I just said, are you in, what contingencies do you still have? She was in the condo review period. She had the right to terminate. I said, but before you do that, let's contact the seller. Let's see what they know. Let's get a second opinion in there. And I think that's when you got involved.
I looked at the report, which is my first step. You asked me what would be my first step. Look at the report, get the data that's previously been provided. Then as a Reagan guy, trust but verify.
Trust but verify.
So I went over, and there's different types of moisture meters. You've probably seen inspectors and assessors use them. One's for drywall, and sometimes we'll just touch the drywall versus using a pin. And I took it dawned on me exactly what happened. He took his drywall moisture meter, which is drywall's porous, put it on a tile floor. Masonry always has some dampness to it, and it's beep, 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 flying off, and he's taking pictures of it, and that's in the report. But I got my little more expensive moisture meter, set it to masonry, put it down on there, and it was dry. And then I immediately called a good friend of mine let me segue just for 1 second, if I can, about home inspectors, and I'll keep this short.
No rants.
I mean, where's the soapbox? Some inspectors, there's some real good inspectors, there's some very poor inspectors, just like real estate agents. They do one deal in 10 years and they don't, and then you guys are out there killing it. Some take classes online, take a test, and they're a home inspector, and that's where you get all the CYA stuff that we talked about, right? You should have this checked by a professional. They're generalists. The one fellow that I'm very close with is not only a home inspector, he's a general contractor and has his roofing license. He has chops. So I called him up. I said, Nick, I might be crazy. I just gave his name. Nick, I might be crazy, but he was laughing because he used the drywall thing, didn't he? I said, exactly. And so I filmed it, took a picture, took a video of everything being good. Trust but verify.
It will have a different setting if it's for a different type of
Correct.
material.
And it's also the depth. I had just a similar circumstance. There was previous water on a bamboo floor. Bamboo is like really thin. And he had his set for really thick. So it's going to be checking the moisture in the concrete, not the floor.
Oh,
the guy wanted a $40,000 new floor, the buyer, and the seller wanted me to do the second opinion. It's not wet. You stuck the pins in it, which is the Bible, right? It's not wet. It was wet at some point. There's a little bit of damage, but he wanted the whole house to be replaced. And that's just wrong.
So do you recommend, it's hard to put a blanket over it, but should every realtor have a moisture reader in their car? Or is that asking for trouble?
If they use it correctly, it's not asking for trouble. Ask me to do an inspection with you when you list something, get a home inspection. I'll show you what to do. And I have one home watch guy. He's down in the aisles. Very funny. He's giving me a lot of business. He's pretty technical. He has a moisture meter. He stuck it in the wall. It went up and it's beeping. And the owner said, "What does it say?" It says, "Call John Kuntz." and that's where he stops. He goes that's his limit of liability. Because home inspectors are generalists, where I'm a specialist with what I do. I stay in my lane.
Yeah, other examples of that I use. So HVAC. I think that the inspector can see if it's running. They can do the thermometer to make sure that it actually has a temperature differential, but they're not going to pressure test the system. They're not going to check for freon. They're not going to look for leaks. They can't.
Legally, you can't.
So when I bought my house and it was under his suggestion, get the HVAC guy to come out. Don Condi came out.
Yeah.
Don Condi is a legend in this town.
He physically came out. He never comes out.
Yeah, so I got, special treatment, but anyone could do that. We have the pool company comes out and does the pool tests. You'll learn that, every inspector has a disclaimer. We don't check for pools. They tend to, but their disclaimers all say they don't. So get a pool guy, get a roofer to come over. We did that at my house. And that way, not only could I have a roofer verify that it was right, but when there was a problem, they gave me a quote because they'd already seen it. So line all that stuff up, best case scenario. Now you mentioned listing agents. Did you say that you'd let them call you?
Anytime, call me. I typically don't charge my real estate agents for my thoughts. I enjoy it. I get to meet somebody new
Yeah.
and talk whoever I can off the ledge if something needs to be done. If you do it before it's on the market or near the beginning of that, you're not going to have the worst thing is to renegotiate a signed contract,
Yeah.
as you all know. And so let's not do that ever again. But let's know the answer before you ask the question.
Know the answer before you ask the question. So you have this property that you go and you say, look, I don't really see anything generally. Maybe it needs some cleaning. Maybe the buyer's a little sensitive to this, but you still had a solution there. You didn't just, and you did the same with my family. You don't, poo-poo the way they think and feel, but you give them solutions, just like you and I do. We don't judge them. We give them solutions and we say, look, here are the three solutions. Which one would you prefer to do? What would you say about this buyer? Someone that's a little sensitive to it.
I'd have the house sanitized.
All right, what does that entail?
I don't want to get into the long story about it's I use a product that we used in the US Capitol when it had anthrax sent to it. It's a very safe product. Um, if you have a 20-year-old house, a lot of stuff is going through the ductwork. I don't believe in duct cleaning. I believe in duct sanitization because the dirt, remember as a kid, your parents said go out and roll in the dirt because it didn't hurt you. What hurts you is organic things, fungal, bacterial, and microbial. This pretty much wipes everything away. And you were talking about the new, I've run into the new houses.
Yeah.
It goes in the same. I've had a lot of the newer houses from the big fast builders. They're leaving their wood outside
Yeah, for months.
and it's supposed to be covered, it's supposed to be up off the ground. And they're getting a lot of growth in their attic. Even though it doesn't affect the indoor conditioned air, it's discerning.
Yeah.
All right. So it's there's things you can do to sanitize a house for the people that are sensitive.
So John was going to think, he was saying, all right, we'll come in with a whole team. We'll wipe everything down with our special formula. And then we would sanitize the AC ducts, which is another chemical process. And then what's the difference between what you were doing with the HVAC and cleaning HVAC ducts?
The duct cleaners are more concerned about lint because you'll see the commercials of, oh, look at this dirt we took out. I'm only concerned about organic materials that'll hurt you, that'll affect your health.
Right.
If we make those inert, we're good. You can go to bed and not stare at the ceiling all night worrying about
That's what filters are for, right?
sort of, but this is even well beyond that. It brings almost everything to a near zero. In the house, even when they build the house, as we just talked about, it's not a near zero because that wood's been sitting outside and they're bringing it in. And so imagine wood sitting outside right now and what's going on with the humidity and things.
Yeah, there's, the type of AC ducts that you have, the age, you just don't want to beat them up. You don't want to rip apart fiberglass or anything like that. Some of the commercial properties, they might have aluminum ducts or something, and those would probably could be cleaned
They could
easier.
probably cleaned easier, yes, but the fiberglass is it's almost impossible to really clean other than putting a big vacuum on it. They suck it out, but there's still a mold spore is the size of smoke. If you have mold on the wall or microbial growth on the wall, we haven't proven it's mold, microbial growth, and you hit it with your family vacuum, it's so small, it's going in the vacuum and being blown out the filter, shared amongst the whole house. Now you have a problem, a bigger problem.
All right, we've given you enough room here. Dad, contracts. Question for you. Because John already told me he doesn't want to talk about contracts. Doesn't know anything.
No,
Right? And that's
not my
answer.
lane.
Not
Not
my
my
answer.
lane.
That's not his lane. And I think maybe that should be also shared with other inspectors. I don't need an inspector telling me whether it's a defective item or not. That's what our job is for. That's what these videos are for. So, all right, let's look at FAR bar contract. There are two FAR bar contracts. There's the as is, my favorite, always. And then there's the standard. The biggest challenge that I see are when we are used to NABOR and randomly we'll do a FAR bar contract, a standard one.
Right.
What does FARBAR standard say about mold?
It is not a defect.
It's not even in there.
They have general repair items, they have permits, and they have wood destroying organisms. They have the three categories. So you look at the general repair items, and mold and radon are not there.
Mold and radon are not there. So that's the big thing to note about a FARBAR contract is mold and radon. If you want those contingencies, you have to add them. And there is a mold addendum. There's not a radon addendum. There just isn't one. And the mold addendum is very different than how NABOR works. So the FARBAR mold addendum, it basically says if there's mold or damage from mold or resulting damage, I think is the word they use. And then it says if the remediation is greater than a certain number, and you have to put in the value, then the buyer can terminate. What a pain. What a pain. So, John, my advice to these agents and to any buyer or seller that'll listen to me is use an as-is contract, because if you don't remember that topic, you're going to get a mold test, you're going to freak out and be like, it's not even covered. Goes back to, actually, I didn't even put it on the board. One of the first things I mentioned, which is, all right, we know that the contract doesn't protect us on the mold. We made a mistake, we forgot to add it, whatever it is. What's causing the mold? What's causing the mold? In my scenario, the humidity was too high. We needed to bring the humidity down. There wasn't actually a defect. And so maybe you go to the buyer, as John did to me, and say, there's no real problem, but we do have to clean everything. Let's clean and sanitize. Let's clean your AC ducts. Let's work to get your humidity low. Does that sound about right?
100%. You'll never have a problem again.
Yeah. So that's an education for a buyer. So keep them calm. Don't say things that you can't take back. Put them in front of the specialists and ask, hey, let's get more information about it. So again, FARBAR, be careful. The mold addendum needs to be added. You may also need a radon addendum if you're thinking in that same realm. You could still get it inspected, even if you don't have those addendums, those contingencies, you can still get that inspected. Maybe you have other contingencies. Maybe it's a condo review period and you've got 7 business days. All right, now we jump to NABOR. What does NABOR say about mold? Is it in there, standard?
It's a defective item, excluding the allergenic molds, the Penicillium aspergillus, which is one of the more common ones, considering we're right next to the Everglades. They measure the interior air quality versus the exterior air quality. And if it's higher inside than outside, then that's a defect.
All right, so NABOR says if it is a toxic mold, and I'm going to have you define the difference. If it is a toxic mold, non-allergenic, then it's a defect, and the buyer can ask for remediation, or they can ask for, I guess, remediation or credit. So, John, what's the difference between toxic mold and non-toxic, or allergenic and non-allergenic?
That's a really loaded question.
I don't know the answer.
The generic answer is Aspergillus is a common mold. There are 5 mold types that are zero tolerance in the state of Florida and generally considered zero tolerance. Those are I want to say the B word, the black molds, the Stachybotrys, Chitonium. Those are always caused by a water source. You have a leak in your ice maker. You have a leak, water. There's standing water. It's caused a black sticky thing versus the Aspergillus, which is it's literally smoke. It stays in the air for 12 hours, gets through and on everything in your TV. Those are the differences. So the toxic mold or the zero tolerance molds, there's 5. Most common ones here are the Stachy and the Chitonium. But I'm going to say, if you're allowed, per the conversation, you're allowed 800 more count inside than outside for ASPE. So if it's 0 outside, 801's bad. 500's fine because we bring it in and out all the time. I've had homes 8,000, 10,000, 15,000. That's not healthy. So anything cannot be, it's like water can kill you, right? Anything in excess.
So we'll give you, this might be your takeaway from today. If you're reading a mold report, call John, get the answer, get his opinion, call him. But the way he thinks about it in his head is, I just want it to be under 800 because 800 or more, the report's going to start saying it's elevated, right?
Talk about the reports for a second and the different ones you've seen.
Yeah.
as layman, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like there's the Dane Lab ones. There's a great lab here, Dane Labs,
I would say most people use that one.
and he has it's called the Home Healthy Standard, which you can elect to use in your report. And at the top of the column, it will be control for the outside, inside one, inside two, however many they do inside.
Mhm.
It's either green and says not elevated or red, elevated. You don't need to read anymore. But if you want to go down into all the Latin words that we talked
Yeah,
about, I mean, Isium and all this stuff, you can. But it really confounds me if you can, I hate the word you steer, if you can recommend either recommend that report because a lot of home inspectors will give you a report with numbers and Latin words that you don't understand. And that's just not right.
creates fear.
It creates fear
Creates fear.
and makes work. Your phone's gonna ring.
Yeah.
What is this? If I can get two that say they get it, not elevated, let's go.
Yeah.
That's what we want, and everybody's happy.
Everyone's happy. Again, I love the as-is contract because if your buyer is really freaked out about it, or if the seller's not responding appropriately, the buyer can get out, they can renegotiate, they can do an amendment for extension of to do more inspections. But if you're using that neighbor contract, let's say you're using the standard, there is a new addendum, probably came out in the last year or two, where it now says that non-toxic molds, the allergenic molds, are also a defect. So in that scenario, you have a scenario where you know your buyer is sensitive to molds. That's the four-letter word in their vocabulary. And they put this addendum, and now you think everyone is protected. But be careful, because all that allows you to do is to make an election for the seller to rectify. But if you had a really sensitive buyer, that's not what the buyer usually wants. That should make them happy, but a lot of times it doesn't. So now we can say, oh, see, I told you I want out of the deal. So be careful. Most real estate agents don't explain what that addendum really does. All it allows you to do is make an election. And that's something I brought up in a previous video where, okay, the neighbor contract protects you for black mold. You didn't want to use that word, but the 5 non-starters here in Florida.
Sticky mold.
Sticky, the bad stuff. So the buyer can, we do our inspection, we find it's one of the 5, bad molds, and we say, oh my gosh, I don't want it. That's not how it works. You've got to make your election, and only if the seller refuses to do the repair. Well, in those scenarios, it's usually a pretty big fix. There's something. Do you have any examples? Any good ones?
A good one is
Why don't you scare us?
I can show you pictures. Actually, I'll share some pictures with you if you want to add it to
We'll
the
email some pictures afterward video.
If water's in the wall for a period of time and we open up that wall, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty at all. There's going to be a lot of black growth. I've literally, and I'll try to find this picture, seen mushrooms growing in the wall, which is kind of interesting.
Oh.
But remediating it properly is not a big deal. Is Christian said, find the cause, find the why. Once we know the why, we've stopped the cause, remediate the issue. Protocol says clean, remediate 24 inches past any visible growth. Do that and do it properly. You save the house, you retest, you verify the efficacy of the remediation, and you're good to go. My homes that my teams, not me, my teams remediate, I swear they're cleaner than if it didn't happen. It's better that honestly for the buyers, it's especially if they have sensitivities because they're getting things they wouldn't have gotten.
So in the comments, one of the realtors says that she used you earlier this year and you saved the deal. So
Thank you.
kudos. Can I ask you a question that you're not going to want me to ask?
Maybe.
So if I throw a party, it's going to cost me a certain amount. If I throw a wedding, they're going to increase it. Does that happen with mold?
With my
You throwing what?
So does the cost go up because you use the 4-letter word?
No, you're only
Not for you, but generally in the
you're only remediating something if it is the 4-letter word, and it's been typically if it's an insurance claim, and you're supposed to get most of my clients trust me to do the post testing because I seem to be a trustworthy guy, and they sign off on that. or you get a third party to come in and if it goes from, I think it's something to mold, they typically write a protocol. It needs to be done as said. Uh, the reason, and we're very similar age, the reason I'm in this business,
40.
40, yeah, we're going on, but he's 12. The reason I'm in this business is A, I'm a crappy golfer. And
Me too.
and I love to go after my competition that takes advantage. You guys know this.
That's why I asked the question.
And this is no joke. I have the quote over at Quail West, which is a pretty nice area. Somebody came in, a wealthy family was buying a bigger house, a $500,000 contract to remediate.
What?
I swear, I have it. I have it. I'll share it with you. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the house. We're 20,000 bucks they were in the house. $500,000.
That should be criminal.
It should be criminal. And that's why I stay in this business, is because people need help. And it's as we were talking to earlier, it scares the bejesus out of you when you hear that M word, especially if they're coming up from up north, or I have sensitivities. Everybody seems to have sensitivities.
Everybody's sensitive.
All right. I'm sensitive. I'm a sensitive guy myself.
Oh,
I think that's 100% right. My wife and I call that the foyer effect. So you walk into someone's home, it's beautiful, it's really expensive, the price just went up. The foyer effect. They do the same with weddings. You'll see people take advantage of their customers.
Zip code.
Yeah, so there is impetus for educating yourself, taking this information, digesting it, trying to understand, and generally, we look at, as lawyers, we have to be asked how to analyze an issue. And we can't just go off the cuff, and I don't think you should either. So in law school, they use this thing called IRAC. Do you remember ever learning that?
No.
So issue, rule, analysis, conclusion.
Okay.
So first, we have to spot the issue. We have to spot the issue. So obviously, in this case, someone suspects there's mold. All right, so rule. Now we got to do the data analysis, or the data. We got to look at the data. You're going to look at the report. Maybe you do a site visit. We're going to learn more about what this is. Analysis. We're going to take the issue with the data, and we're going to, and maybe, what skills you have, and say, all right, what's the solution here? And then a conclusion. So issue, rule, analysis, conclusion. I use that with everything because otherwise you skip to step 3. Yeah, of course you could sell me to totally sanitize the house, but you're missing the issue. That's not what I called you about. It's a very important thing. And so a couple of things for you guys. We're going to go to the learn one thing before I forget. All right, so my learn one thing is worry about the contracts. And if you find yourself using a standard contract, know that you have to point out what's causing the issue first. Don't over focus on the contract, focus on what's causing the issue, and either use that answer to calm down your buyer a little bit and say, look, if it's cleaned, it's fine. And then separately, if it's a seller, hey, there might be an issue here we have to address. Act as the owner. Act as the owner.
If you weren't selling the place, what would you do?
If you weren't selling the place, what would you do? What would you want for your family, for your kids, that sort of thing? It humanizes the problem and the fact that we have a contract. It's not us versus them. It's we got to get this right. I want them to be happy. I want goodwill in the deal. So, Dad, what's your learn one thing?
What's his phone number?
Yeah. So actually, someone did
You need
share.
someone to call.
You need someone to call. You need a second opinion, a
Talk
third
people off the
opinion,
ledge.
whatever it may be. All right, John, I'll put you on the spot. Learn one thing.
I got mine right up there already. Know the answer before you ask the question. Every new listing, call me. We'll check it out. We'll make sure it's okay, because then once you finally get, especially these days, once you finally get this under contract, it's smoother sailing. The other defects will be a plug doesn't work or something like that. Not the M word as we're talking about. And that's just, I don't like to see everybody's hair on fire. It'll be much easier for everybody involved and save money, actually.
So I think there are people in this world that they elevate an issue, they can maximize it, and other people that try and find balance in it. And I think John's one of these people, not to brown nose too much. But if someone's super panicked, you try and find them calm and you meet them in the middle. You're not trying to bring them to you, you're trying to meet them in the middle. And then if someone's not worried about it at all, I think it's time to kind of, hey, put you in gear. There might be something here. So I've trusted you, and you've always come through me for me, and I think you've saved other people that have been watching this. So, John, easiest way to contact you.
Uh, the phone number is easy. It's
Bat
two.
signal, right?
It's 23. Call the big guy here. He has my 239-444 mold. 444 mold. Super simple.
A word for you.
I do. It's easy to remember.
Funny. Yeah.
John at All Dry SWFL. I'm sure we'll post something on the video.
Yeah. So we're gonna write an article for everybody. We'll write an article here. I'll take the pillow.
That's kidding me. That's Puddles. That's our mascot.
Yeah, Puddle. Oops.
So we'll post an article about this. We're gonna give you some real world scenarios. We'll give John's contact information as well. But thank you for watching, and good luck on all your listings. You know, if there's something that needs to be looked at or a second opinion, or you just want to talk, John's a great pillow talker. So there you go.
Jesus.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks.